We're in Munich with Joe Cocker, touring as hard as ever and just about to release the Night Calls album. The LP opens up with Feels Like Forever. It's a Bryan Adams and Diane Warren song. Joe, you couldn't get the top people to write a song for you then?
I'm going to say they've certainly written a few hits, haven't they, between them. It was a bit odd because I'd sort of done this album and finished it, and the American record company didn't like the end product. So I went in and cut this track along with a song called Now That the Magic Has Gone from John Miles to make it so, which it makes a whole different parcel than the one they received in Germany and such. But I think it's a pretty good song, and I know we've actually got EMI geared up in England to see if they can get me a hit record, which would be nice after about, 1985, I think, was the last one.
Yeah, well, that will take you back to You Can Leave Your Hat On, which was a hit throughout 1986. Now, Joe, I've been reading a book about you, and there's a line in it which says, and I quote, "You've got more of a career now, and a hit record would be nice, but it's not important."
Well, it's true. I mean, because I really do. I've got plenty of places to play. I mean, I do well in Spain and Germany and Italy and, a lot of places around the world. So it would just be like a bonus for me after all these years if, I guess I neglected England back in the, in the 70s and such when I started, or in the 80s when I concentrated on Germany as my main audience. So I've got a lot of catching up to do, really.
Yeah, maybe you might be surprised, though. I think there's still a lot of interest in Joe Cocker in the UK. As you gear up to tour again there, is that something that, is that a feeling you get too?
Well, of course I've got Sheffield, which I did this, the City Hall about a year and a half ago, and that was very exciting after all those years. And London, I think we're doing the Town and Country Club, and Newcastle, Glasgow, I don't know, we'll have to see up there, but we've got this great new stage production, and it's quite an exciting show. I've got one of the best bands I've had in years. So we'll see, maybe they'll come along.
Yeah, I think they will. Certainly to hear songs from the new album Night Calls. Now, looking at that album, there's a song called I Can Hear the River. That song could be off Sheffield Steel. It has that kind of atmosphere to it. Who selects the songs you record now? Because over the years, it's always been your decision. Do you still have that control?
I do, basically. I still, find that the ones I choose are the ones that turn out best. I mean, in the last few years, I've had, the record company sort of breathing down my neck, trying to get me to do stuff which is out of my sort of vein, And I found that it didn't work, I mean, they weren't hits. So, I mean, I think they're coming around to understanding it too, that I pretty much know my own voice best. And I try and come up with some modern sounds, So it doesn't always work to suit the record people, but as I say, I think they're finally twigging on that I know best.
Now, over the years, you've had what can only be described as a self-destruct button. That's changed. Is there a point in time where it did change for you?
I've tried to button it down to, was there an actual day or something? But I mean, it was getting towards the end of the 70s, and as I was saying, I've always had the German fans, thank God. But I was in a pretty sad state. I was taking any substance I can get my hands on, drinking terribly heavily, and I was like a nervous wreck, And I just sort of realised, I thought, well, I'm either going to end up being a statistic in some hotel room, curled up in a corner, or I just get my act together. And it was about that time I met my wife, Pam, about 1980. So she helped me a lot to come out of, to get a more positive outlook. And I did, and I sort of got into the 80s. And it was a long haul, to sort of regain the ground I'd lost. So, I mean, even now, I'm not like Eric or Eric Clapton or a few of the others who just totally quit, I still like a drink on my days off in the evening and stuff. But I'm certainly not the madman I was, But it's always there, that little devil inside, I mean, but I don't think it'll ever rise again the way it did.
Yeah, if we move back to the album, you mentioned John Miles before, who's now playing in your band, and on the album there are various producers. Were they selected for each particular song? Because John's song, Now That the Magic Has Gone, is a very polished production.
Not really. I said with John, that was like one of the late tracks we added on to the album. But like, for my own pleasure, I mean, I really don't like working with too many producers, but it just sort of turned out that way. I mean, with Danny Kuchma, he got other things he wanted to do, so it was a bit strange. David Tickle, I did quite a few tracks with. But I mean, I normally, I prefer to just stick with one guy for an album, which I probably will for the next record, but who, I don't know yet.
As a singer, do you get lots of songs sent to you from people who write songs and think you'd be perfect for it? Does your phone ever stop ringing?
Well, I don't know about my phone, but the odd thing is, like, whenever I'm making an album and we put out the feel, the word to all the publishers and stuff, I get a barrage, just as you say, of songs that have people going, wow, doing this sort of, I don't know, like me doing my Ray Charles impersonation. And they're always ballads, and I end up with a box of about 400 of these things, which, I mean, it's very nice of them to send to me, but I do have a hell of a problem picking good songs because of that.
Chris Stainton, another Sheffield boy, an essential part of the Joe Cocker lineup and the Grease Band in the late 60s and early 70s, went on to play with Eric Clapton, but now back playing with you. Was that good to reconnect?
Yeah, it was a shame we ever parted, really. But I mean, it was just that stuff that happens when you're young, And like by 1972, we did a world tour together. And then I didn't want to do anything for a couple of years. So Chris, I think, went with Leo Sayer and then Eric Clapton. But when I found him about 3 years ago, he was almost going to quit. He hadn't got a gig and he was going to get like an office job or something. So thank God I found him in time. And he's still playing like a storm,
So on this new album, there's a remix of Unchain My Heart, which has been worked on by Dan Hartman. Why did you think it needed more work? Like, personally, I thought it was fine.
Actually, I was dreading it, when... we sort of loaned it out to Volvo, which I've never done before, as a car, like tour support they've given us. So, I don't like venturing into the commercial world too often. But basically, that's why we remixed it. And... I was dreading hearing the finished product, but they've toughened it up a little. But I agree with you, really. I mean, the original form was... It might sound a bit better on radio, but for me, the original form is fine.
Yeah, agreed. How do you cope personally? Like, say, for example, you've spent 9 months, you've given your all to record an album, and then the critics slate it.
Well, of late, I've not been so worried, but I've done albums. I remember, but I did an album a while back called Civilized Man, and I go home and I buy a music magazine. I sat on the toilet, and we'd been in the studio doing this thing for a good 7 months, and the guy just trashed it, in like about 8 lines, and it is very upsetting, when you've worked so hard on stuff. But it's always I've had other stuff when people have really praised things I've done that I don't think were the best of my abilities. So. It works both ways.
Yeah. I also think live performance is essential to Joe Cocker. You couldn't just make albums. It wouldn't be you.
Well, I must say, the making of the records I enjoy. The promotion part's always a bit tough, you have to come out and do 3 months just talking, no offence. But, making videos, it's definitely not my, cup of meat at all. I'm much happier on a stage. For those 2 hours, are really precious to me. There's a lot of travel involved, of course, that gets to you a bit. But it is, it's something very sacred about those 2 hours, even though I'm 48 now, I'm still leaping about. I wonder just how long I can keep up the energy level,
Yeah, well, I think music generally provides the energy. Look at Ray Charles, who you mentioned before, and Little Richard, they're still doing it. You've probably got still quite a few years left.
Oh, definitely. I want to make it to the year 2000, I hope. But really, it's hard because we keep opening up. I'm finding new audiences to play. The USSR, I guess the only reason we haven't gone there yet is because there's no money. But I keep finding, we went to Czechoslovakia, different places. So, that makes it entertaining to find new audiences too.
On the subject of live performances, you often get credit for one of the best live performances ever, referring to Woodstock. It was so special. Do you ever get fed up of people asking you, what was that like?
There's not too much a fresh kind of thing I can talk about. I've covered most aspects. But it was an amazing day for me, for the band, for the Grease Band too. Because I remember we were you know, it was a massive. I mean, I never played to a bigger crowd since, but it was very hard to get their attention. You know, you're looking out there, all these hippies eating sandwiches, dropping acid and whatever they were doing. So we were on that stage a good half of the set before we even got anybody's attention. And then I remember we did an old Ray song called "Let's Get Stoned," and then they started coming around a bit. And of course, by the time we got a little help, we got them, you know. But it was, you know, oddly enough, well, you know, people seem to think you have tons of memories to talk about, but I was just pretty stunned by it all. And we didn't hover, we were flown out pretty fast in a helicopter. So, I mean, it was just quite an amazing day, though.
All right, back to now. On the new album Night Calls, the title track has been written by Jeff Lynne from ELO. Starts off, I guess, got a real bluesy feel and then gets more produced. Personally, I would have liked it to stay with the blues.
It sort of reminds me like House of the Rising Sun kind of vibe when it kicks off, you're right. But that was odd because, you know, Jeff, I mean, he called me up and said, I want to write you a song, so I just want to talk to you for 10 minutes to get an idea of what to write about. I went, okay. So he's, you know, like a day later, he sent me this tape, and I said, well, I like it very much. When do we go in and cut it? He said, no, that's it, Joe. All you got to do is come down and put a vocal on in my little studio. And I thought, oh God, this is almost too easy, you know. I'm used to a bit more graft involved than that.
And not like the old days when you first started making records. I imagine the techniques are very, very different than they are today. Do you think that today a lot of the earthiness, the feel and the passion is missing in most songs?
Well, I still like to try and record, you know, with what I call the ground tracks, where the band come in with me. I'll sing live with them, you know, if we do 20 takes maybe, just to give them the idea, you know, the voice. Because if you cut tracks without any singing, they don't really know how you're going to approach it, you know. And I don't like doing albums or making tracks with just sampling, you know. When I hear stuff on the TV, I mean, it doesn't seem to have any meat to it. There's no bottom on it. So, I mean, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, but I still like it the old hard way, you know.
Another public highlight of your career was the duet with Jennifer Warnes, and I heard somebody thought she was a country singer.
I don't know about country. She's more folky, I guess. You know, she did an album of Leonard Cohen songs. Yeah, but, I mean, you know, I guess that was part of the appeal of the song, because our voices were so removed in style, you know.
So how did that duet come about?
Well, it was odd because Stuart Levine, you know, the guy who produces Simply Red, a few others, he called my manager about saying, Joe's got to do this song. And I got this demo that was awful. I mean, it was dreadful. I mean, I was going, oh my God, I must be doing this just for the money. But when I got to the studio, and again, Stuart had built this whole track, you know, with live players, but it was just, you know, there for me. I sang the whole thing without Jennifer originally, which she actually disputed. She said that she found me for the song, but I told it to Stuart, and he knows, and he said, no, Joe, I wanted you to do it. But, you know, I sang it, and it sounded very odd, me just doing the whole song. And then she came in, and then we stripped it down and added all her pieces. And I knew as soon as we'd done it that it was going to be a big record.
And it was too. Spent 3 weeks on top of the Billboard Top 100. Now, Steve Winwood's song Can't Find My Way Home, which he originally did with Blind Faith, has made its way onto your new album. Now, you and Steve have a relationship that goes back a bit.
Yeah, oddly enough, I did some dates where I opened for him in the States last summer. And I played him the cut, you know. And he didn't say particularly, he just said he liked it, which I suppose he was being polite. But it was one of those songs that, you know, I guess most artists have these little songs in the back of their heads that just won't go away, you know. So we went in, and at the end of the session, we just put it down, and you know, it's a bit of an earthier rendition, and I mean, because Blind Faith's version was very falsetto, you know. I mean, so I don't know if we did it justice or not.
So, Joe, you've done a couple of songs that Steve Winwood has been involved with over the years, and I do see some parallels in your careers.
Really, I mean, you flatter me to say there's a parallel, because, you know, I mean, I was just emerging on the scene really about 67, 68, and because Steve was like the child prodigy, you know. So we always thought Traffic were the end of the world. I mean, so I mean, you know, for you to say that I'm even in the same ballpark is very nice.
All right, if we get back to the new album, you've done a version of Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, a classic Elton John song, which has just been a #1 for Elton and George Michael. George is very much a contemporary singer. When you look at the contemporary singers around now, who do you like?
Do you know, I mean, I have a hard time with, always when people say, well, there must be someone around, Joe, I mean, Black Crowes, the band in America, I thought they play some, give me a bit of hope that there's, because I have to look for people in the R&B tradition to me. And I was interested to hear in the young singer Andrew Young from the movie The Commitments, because I've noticed in all these reviews, everyone was knocking him for sounding like me, But the kid's only 16, so I think he's got a lot of hope, because he sounds, as if he listens not to me, but to like the Otis Redding and the real thing,
Yeah, and The Commitments is a great music movie as well. Now, on the album, Bryan Adams has co-written another song, When the Night Comes, and I believe he's playing on this version.
He does actually. He plays an open string. He had a problem because that's what he always likes to do on his stuff. But I couldn't sing it in the key he wanted me to. It was a bit too high. So, but he does play the rhythm guitar throughout, yeah.
Yeah, that song is you. You're a rock and roller at heart. How do you describe yourself if somebody asks?
Whenever people ask me to sum up what I am, and I am an R&B singer, really, at heart. And, when I let out those screams sometimes on record, I always go, oh my God, I've done it again. So that means I've got to, every night I go out, I've got to drop that scream in. So it can backfire on you too.
Yeah. Over the years, you've had a lot of accolades, nominations, awards. What does mean the most to you?
Well, to be honest, I've never really received that many awards. We got the Grammy for Up Where We Belong. I've never received a solo Grammy, but I've had tons of nominations for them. So it's hard, really. I'm not an award kind of guy. I mean, I've got a whole collection of gold records at home from day one, which is nice, when you get them from different parts of the world. So, I've got a room, like a little trophy room, but nothing too special.
Yeah, well, from what I know, that wouldn't be you. Now, you've dabbled in showbiz and all the glitz, but do you still get out for a pint with your mates?
Very much so. I live in California now, Santa Barbara. But the area I live in, all the guys around me are like plumbers, or they're just old hippies who went into the hills after it all faded out, So, you're right, I never have hung out with the star element much,
Now, what is a Prince song doing on a Joe Cocker album? I would have thought never in a million years, but Five Women works really well.
Well, oddly enough, as I say, we were writing just before this album to lots of writers, and very few of them, sent me anything at all. But Prince sent me 2 songs. One of them was like a little off track for me, But that is basically a 12-bar blues, with a lot of words. There's a hell of a mouthful of words. But if you'd have heard the demo, we really reproduced it quite faithfully to the piano part. He did play the piano on the original. When Greg Fillinganes heard it, he went, "Oh my God, I know that it's straight." He knew it was Prince straight away. So I'm not getting any feedback as whether he likes it or not, but it turned out, I thought, pretty good.
Yeah. Please No More is the big ballad. Is this the one that surfaced from the box that you were talking about earlier?
I do love the nature of the song, because it's, and we sing it when I do it live. It's, it's one of those that really you can get right inside it, But there's an odd story behind it because I originally received it from Dave Edmunds, and the idea was we were going to go cut some tracks, and then I forget how my record company weren't keen on me working with Davey. I guess he's on the same label, and his last album didn't do good, and they were giving me all this flack. So he was very upset when he found out I'd recorded it without him. So just a little adage I thought I'd drop in there.
Yeah, I'm sure Dave's happy with the shout out. Now, in your songs, there's a feeling and sensitivity about your singing. Do you consider yourself a sensitive person?
I like to think so, yeah. When I do the song "You Are So Beautiful," I well up some nights with tears. But I've always managed to get through it. But I like cats and kids and stuff like that. I'm pretty sensitive.
Now, on the album, there's another Lennon McCartney song you've done. You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Your version's much heavier than the original, But over the years, Lennon and McCartney have been pretty good to you.
They have to. But I mean, I suppose you can liken me to people who said, "Well, you're trying to do another little help for my friends." I said, "No, no, we can't do that." But it was really Dan Kuchma's. He said he'd heard it in his head. He'd heard me singing it for 20 years. So he said, "You've got to do it for me." So we did, and then, then we went and added the gospel choir on it. So it became a much bigger thing than I thought when we first put it down.
So the album's finished. What happens then? Do you get your opportunity to give your input on the finished album with the running order of songs, and do you get an input into the artwork?
Sometimes I'll let go on certain grips. You know, if somebody else has got what they think is a really good idea, same with the artwork. Although I did the picture, I guess in Europe again you're going to have a different picture than the one. Sorry, in England you're going to have a different picture than the cover in Germany. So it's all getting a bit weird. But I chose the one for the German cover, but it's not colourful enough for the English and the Americans.
Well, they do love their colour. Now, English music at the moment is very fashion-led, but if it's good enough, it'll get through. With your upcoming tour of the UK, do you hope to prove a point?
Well, for 2 hours there, I'll go out and give them my all and see, because I think if we do get people along, they'll have a good time,
and
for sure.
Finally, is there anyone you wish you'd sung with over the years?
Well, actually, there's still a few ladies around. I mean, Gladys Knight, for one. I think we'd have very compatible keys, if we could ever find a good song. Bonnie Raitt, who's on the same label, but oddly enough, I mean, when I heard that song, "If I Can Make You Love Me," I thought, my God, that would have made an incredible duet. And then, of course, there's always Tina Turner, who's managed by the same manager I've got, so you never know. One of those things might happen.